I honestly think we approach therapy the same way we approach dating, and that's why people are giving up too soon. Hey, I'm Asha Cerese, your dream doula, supporting you with birthing the life, love, and business you desire. Go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into this topic. Let me start off by saying this. I strongly believe that everybody needs a therapist. And honestly, everybody needs a team. I'm a certified life coach. I want to be a part of my client's wellness team. So you have your therapist, you got me as your life coach. You might have a business coach that does something a little bit differently than what I do. You might have a trainer, you might have a nutritionist. You need a team of people to support your whole self. But we're talking about therapy today. The reason why I compared it to dating is because you have to meet a few different people sometimes before you find the one that aligns with you. And oftentimes we get with one therapist, just like we get with the first person that we feel like we like, and then we settle for them right away before we weigh our options, before we find out if this is the person for us. In this video, I wanted to talk about my own personal journey with therapy and how it has changed and evolved over time. So I started therapy when I was 23 years old. I started therapy because my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, had passed away. I was really having a tough time with the grief. And I was working as a nurse and I had great benefits and I looked into who I could see. And I ended up going to a therapist. I don't even remember if I did any consultations or how I ended up deciding on her, but she was an older white woman and she was actually exactly who I needed to be with to start my therapeutic journey. It started out as me going to her for some type of coping skills and relief for the grief of my grandmother, but she ended up doing so much more for me. She was able to, for one, identify the things that I had been going through that I just didn't have the language for. She gave me some diagnoses, some being anxiety and depression, PTSD, OCD, and that shows up differently in everybody. So when I say OCD, I didn't have the same symptoms that other people have, like, you know, checking the stove 100 times or needing things to be placed in a certain way. And instead of me feeling shame or sad about these diagnoses, I actually felt relief because I finally understood why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I finally had a name to what was going on and I could do more research and I could utilize the tools that she had for me and that she offered me, and it made me feel so much better. She got me to unpack a lot of childhood experiences and really identify where the root issues was coming from for a lot of things that I was experiencing in my adulthood. She was the first person that taught me about boundaries. I was a people pleaser to the 10th degree when I showed up in her office. She gave me this list of rights. Like, I have the right to say no, I have the right to feel this way. Like, I still have it. I'll see if I can take a picture and upload it into this video. Before I started seeing her, I felt a lot of guilt and shame around saying no or disappointing people or even setting boundaries or having difficult conversations. So she really introduced me to the concept of setting boundaries. She gave me tools, she gave me books to read, she gave me workbooks to work through, and she really held space for me in a way that I needed at that time. I wasn't even really talking to her a lot about my marriage, but just the things that were unlocked in those sessions allowed me to open my eyes to a lot of things that were going on in my marriage. And it really gave me some strength and empowerment that I needed to make a decision that I ended up making shortly after I started therapy. I saw a Threads post the other day and it was talking about what was the situation that got you to cancel on a therapist. And this goes into my experience with the therapist that I had next. This was my first therapist that I had in Georgia because my first therapist was in Colorado. Once I stopped therapy with her, I didn't get another therapist in Colorado. So once I got settled into Georgia, I got my career, I had my benefits, I decided I want to start therapy again. And this time I chose a middle aged Black woman. At the time when I had my first therapy session, like I said, I needed her in that moment. She was the perfect person for who I needed at the time. But as I've evolved and grown, I realized that I did prefer to have a Black therapist. They have more insight into the Black experience from firsthand. And I wanted someone who was relatable and who could understand from a different perspective. But let me just start with the pros. I did unpack a lot that I needed to unpack with her. I started seeing her when I was about 29 years old. And if you're into astrology or anything, it was like around the time of my Saturn return. So I'm in this phase of my life where I'm rediscovering who I am. I'm embracing this new chapter of about to be turning 30. And so there were a lot of things that were coming up. And I wanted to address some things from my childhood that I didn't want to necessarily take that energy into the age of 30. So I processed a lot of things with her during that time. So she did give me some tools and some things that I needed at that moment. But then there were some things that were off putting as well. Let's start with the fact that she was late for most of the appointments. Because I worked at the same company that my therapy sessions were in, I worked downstairs, the therapy was upstairs. I would often get the first appointment before my shift started. So it's her first appointment as well. She's coming in late, clocking in late, and it's an hour session. But if you get here 10 minutes late, I'm only getting 50 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes is you scheduling me for my next session. So I never got a full session because she would often come late. And one time, this woman even stopped in the middle of our session to go to a staff meeting. And I'm just sitting there like, wonder where she went. Do you think I got a discount on that session? Absolutely not. So she was doing things like that that were unprofessional. And even though my first therapist taught me about boundaries, I still was struggling with speaking up in like conflict. It just bothered me. So I didn't really speak up, but I didn't like that. But that wasn't the absolute deal breaker for me for her. It was when I decided I wanted to write my father a letter before I turned 30. And I really just wanted to talk about some things that I wanted to release and forgive. And I wanted him to be able to fully hear me by reading it because, sometimes parents don't really receive it when you're talking to them directly. Some things that you say may feel uncomfortable or, difficult to talk about. So I wanted to write him a letter. And this was my idea. And I wrote the letter. And so in a session, she asked me if I wanted to share the letter with her before I sent it. And I said, sure. So I start the letter and I'm like, Dear Daddy, before I could say anything else, she's shaming me and projecting her own feelings about the word daddy onto me. She's like cringing. Can't you call him something else? Like, you don't think that that puts you in a position of this, like you're still a child, or that just seems like it's not the right term to use. Ma'am, he's my daddy. Like, he's my father. He raised me. He's been in my life my whole life. His name is Daddy to me. I'm his youngest daughter. I'm the only child that has spent my entire childhood with him. His name is Daddy. Like, there's nothing sexual about it. Whatever you got going on in your mind, that's your business. But I just really didn't appreciate the fact that she tried to shame me because I call my dad Daddy. Most people that I know who know their father call them Daddy, even men, and it's not sexual, and it was just so off-putting. So after we got through that, I'm reading the letter and I get to a part of the letter that was not funny. None of the letter was funny. Some of it was serious, some of the areas of the letter were very vulnerable, some of them were hurtful. I was reading something to her that was very personal and very hurtful to me that I was sharing, and she had to stop herself from laughing. Ma'am, are you kidding me? I'm sitting here allowing you to hear some of the most vulnerable parts of myself, sharing something that should just be or could just be between me and my father, but I'm allowing you to listen in on what I'm telling him. And you over there stopping yourself from laughing? Mm-mm. I didn't care that she was a black woman. I didn't care that she could relate or understand. I just cared about the fact that I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel understood, I didn't feel safe, and she was very unprofessional. And shortly after, I don't think I came back to her anymore. I might have did like one more session, but I just had to put my big girl panties on and stop seeing her because that was completely inappropriate. And looking back, I probably should have reported her ass, but I didn't want to get her in trouble. And I just say that if you're not able to hold space for people and you're not able to stay serious in serious moments, you might need to change your career. And I say all this to say it is okay to change therapists. You are not locked in with any one particular person. You're not married to that person. If they no longer resonate with you, if they offend you, if they don't serve you in the way that you need to be served, move on. The next therapist that I had was a black man. I intentionally chose him because I felt that most of my pain and hurt and trauma had come from black men. And so I felt like it would be healing to have a safe black masculine energy to be able to hold space for me and support me on my healing journey. And he was really awesome. I was able to unpack a lot of those things that I needed to unpack when it comes to some of my trauma related to black men. He was very gentle, he was very understanding, and he was an older man. So it really felt like a fatherly energy as well. And I didn't really get enough time with him as my therapist to get really super vulnerable and get to you know, to all the details of everything, but he really supported me when it came to that. And he supported me on beginning my entrepreneurship journey as well, because I started seeing him right as I was transitioning out of nursing and into full time entrepreneurship. My next therapist was a black woman who was about 5 to 8 years older than me. And I intentionally chose her because she was into holistic wellness, the whole you. And she incorporated spirituality and mindfulness into her practice. And that was perfect for me based on the space and time that I was in my life. I needed someone who would provide me with more tools than talk therapy. And she did a great job with holding space for me to talk and unpack a lot of things. She supported me at where I was at that time. And that was being a full time entrepreneur, the ups and downs of that. Still, really healing from divorce, getting into dating, and healing from some of the other situations that I have been in, supporting me on my self discovery journey, keeping me on track with my spirituality and my mindfulness. And she did really well with helping me to see myself. And although by this time I was already a life coaches need therapists need therapists, but she did acknowledge the fact that I was very self-aware and that I already had a lot of tools. So she recognized that talk therapy was not enough for me because a lot of the things that I was talking about I've already processed. So we were able to utilize other tools, and that worked well for me at that time. I really enjoyed her as a therapist. I felt like I was most aligned with her when it comes to all the other therapists that I've had. And over time, I've also had coaches, I've had spiritual guides, healers, holistic wellness practitioners that have also been a part of my healing journey. And at this point in my life, I'm actually interested in trying some other healing modalities such as EMDR. I'll let you do your research on that. I'm going to try it out. When I do, I'm going to come back and make a video about my experience. Therapy is definitely not a one size fits all. Make sure you're doing your due diligence. Take advantage of the free consultations that therapists offer. If they offer it, they should be offering it. It gives you an opportunity to learn who they are, their style of therapy, what type of services they offer, and what they specialize in. And then it also gives them an opportunity to find out if you're the right fit for them as well. And just take your time, do your research. And if you do start seeing a therapist and they no longer align with what you need, it's okay to stop going to them and find a new one. Okay? So let's talk in the comments. What's something that therapy has taught you about yourself? And have you ever had to switch a therapist? Do you have any horror stories? Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I will talk to you later.